We're at National Trail Raceway near Columbus, Ohio for the NHRA Spring Nationals. I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans, and we're getting set for the first round of funny car eliminations. NHRA officials and track officials both watching the weather. The forecast calls for an increasing chance of rain this afternoon, and everybody wants to get this race over. The funny cars, fiberglass creations, the fiberglass replica body nestled over the tubular chassis and the drivetrain, much the same as the Top Fuel dragsters. This pairing will find Kenny Bernstein of Dallas, Texas, back after a several-year layoff against Dale Armstrong of Torrance, California, who has quite a story.
A week ago, Californian Dale Armstrong rode out a funny car fire so hot that it completely burned up his fire suit. Look at this glove here. Burned off the parachutes, burned up the body, just about destroyed the car, but you look okay except for maybe a little wound on the nose there.
Oh yeah, that's not bad at all. I just got a little plastic on my nose when the shield melted a little bit.
The safety equipment definitely works.
Oh yeah, you can see it does. By looking at these gloves even, I don't even remember my hands being hot.
Okay, take us for a ride from the time the fire started. What happened?
Well, the car was a little bit lean and it started going over the hill, as we say, and I drove a little farther, just a split second, and then I saw fire in the fire windows. And naturally, it just shut it off then, and I had already released the parachute, but it didn't seem to make any effect. It must have had a lot of fire behind the car, and it burned it off as soon as it came out. Well, the next thing I did was shut the fuel shut off, which is also a normal instinctive thing, and then reached over and set the fire bottles off. And then it was going backwards, and I couldn't see where I was. I thought I was going off the track sideways, but I was still going down the track, and it went over up back onto the track and into the hay bales, and then it came to a stop.
But without a week's delay here, you'd have never been able to rebuild this car. What happened? How did you do it? You went to Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we're lucky. We're only based 4 hours out of here over in Oil City, Pennsylvania. And Mike has a shop over there, so we just hustled on home and worked at it all week and got it all back together.
Where'd you get another body?
Well, that's the body we had from last year. It's an old speed racer. It don't quite go as fast. Aerodynamically, it's not as good, and it's a little heavier, but it'll get us through this deal.
An incredible ride for Dale Armstrong in Mike Case's speed racer, but he's back, ready to match up against Kenny Bernstein in the first round of eliminations of this Spring Nationals Championship. Bernstein, having laid out of the sport for about 4 years, came back a couple of years ago with one of the finest operations in the business. He qualified extremely well here and is racing against Armstrong, trying to make his first Spring Nationals victory a reality. Armstrong and Bernstein close in the middle of the course. It's a close race with Kenny Bernstein pulling it out at the finish line. A fine elapsed time of 6.18 seconds. His speed over 238 miles an hour. Using both parachutes to bring him to a safe stop. Bernstein, the winner over Dale Armstrong. As we watch again, we see both cars, when the tree goes green, they seem to leave together and stay that way until they get just about to the end of the quarter mile. And at that point, watch now for the strong charge by Kenny Bernstein. Here he comes, and he pulls it out over Dale Armstrong by just about a full car length. Bernstein coming to a halt, taking off his fire suit, waiting for the crew to make that some 3/4 of a mile trip down to pick him up. He takes his time and folds up his parachute and gets ready to head back to the pits as the next pair of cars do their burnouts. In the near lane, we have got Roy Harris out of Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania. Harris out on his own this season after driving for a car owner last year. He is racing against Dale Poldy, who drives for his partner, Mike Hemby. Poldy in the War Eagle is located in the far lane. He does his final dry burnout as Roy Harris, the Pennsylvania-based entry, is in the near lane. Both cars now staged. The Christmas tree goes green, and it appears that Poldy has a little bit of advantage off the starting line. But at the finish, another close race, and Roy Harris pulls it out, 6.23 seconds, his speed over 233 miles an hour. The engine's already running in the next pair of cars as NHRA, ever fearful of the weather, trying to get this race over. And this is the four-time world champion, Don the Snake Prudhomme of Granada Hills, California, the winningest racer ever in Top Fuel and Funny Car, against John Collins, Collins from Long Beach, California, driving a unique entry. That is a replica of a Datsun 280 ZX body. Sitting in case the roll cage and under the Dodge Omni body is Don the Snake Prudhomme. We heard him earlier say he's going to try everything he's got to see if he can pull it out, but he's late off the starting line, and John Collins has built a big lead and extends it at the finish, and what an upset. John Collins defeating Don Prudhomme, 6.20 seconds at over 239 miles an hour, but that's where it counted, right at the starting line, as you saw John Collins just pull that big lead, and at that point it was all over for the Snake. Collins keeps right on going, and as you can see at the finish line, Don Prudhomme is nowhere to be seen.
John Collins has a big grin on his face, and it's well-deserved. Congratulations. When you beat that man, you've beaten the best.
I'll tell you, Steve, it's been a long week here for the last 10 days, and last week the car caught on fire on Thursday, and we destroyed our last engine. We got another motor in the car, and looks like it's going to work out pretty good right now.
In the near lane is the car of Roland Leong, the Hawaiian, driven by Mike Dunn. This is a second-generation drag racer. He is the son of the fireman himself, Jim Dunn. Mike Dunn is racing against Tom Anderson, who drives for Jim Ouimet. With an arrow pointing inside the cockpit to tell you where Tom Anderson resides. He is concentrating now on getting a good lead against young Mike Dunn. He is a 23-year-old racer. Dunn, the son of Jim Dunn out of La Mirada, California, and smoking the tires in Roland Leong's car. It's still a close race, but at the finish line by about a half a car length, Tom Anderson wins it, 6.37 seconds to 6.41 seconds for Dunn. Just 0.04 of a second separating these two cars in their elapsed times as it is. Tom Anderson winning. Right there you saw the tires going up in smoke. That means he lost traction in Roland Leong's Hawaiian. For Tom Anderson, it looks like the motor starts to go away, but he holds on long enough to take the win. Our next pair, the Showtime Corvette of Tom Hoover out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Hoover, one of the true longtime greats of this sport. He's got a lot of savvy. He raced Top Fuel dragsters, then funny cars. He's been in it over 15 years. He's racing against the dean of funny car racers. That is Cheryl Greer from Warner Robins, Georgia, driving now the Sting of Larry Kugel. Greer has been down many a racetrack in his career, but he is one of the finest rides now with Larry Kugel. Tom Hoover, his 74-year-old father, serves as his crew chief, and they travel the country following the championship drag racing circuit. Closely matched off the starting line. Hoover pulling away immediately, and a big win for Tom Hoover. Both his parachutes out, the quickest elapsed time of the first round of racing, 6.12 seconds at over 226 miles an hour. It is Tom Hoover winning his first round match against Cheryl Greer. It is really getting dark. We're beginning to see the flames coming off the headers of these cars, indicating the weather is worsening. This is Billy Meyer out of Waco, Texas, known as Waco Willie throughout the drag racing circles. Started his racing career at the age of 16, driving a funny car. He is one of the greats against one of the newcomers, Fuzz Miller out of Austin, Texas. Miller coming on strong this season, driving the Pandemonium car. Got to remember Bernie Lewis in checking things over. But all of a sudden, here is something going on. They're telling him to shut it off. They're indicating it is raining at the finish line, the shutdown area of the track. It is dry at the starting line, but the rain at the finish line has caused him to halt the racing for the moment. The crowd trying to find some place to go to find some shelter. At the finish line, they've already found the shelter, and we'll be back to keep track of the rain and the racing at the Spring Nationals.